Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this explosive breakdown of one of the most talked about moments in daytime television history, the day Hollywood's ultimate tough guy, Sylvester Stallone, was forced to storm off the set of The View after a blistering, no-holds-barred clash with the sharp-tongued co-host Joy Behar. It was a Tuesday morning in mid-July 2025, the kind of humid New York summer day where the air conditioning in the ABC studios hummed like a distant swarm of angry bees, but inside Studio 8H, the temperature was about to skyrocket far beyond anything the HVAC could handle. Sylvester Stallone, at 79 years young, the Italian stallion himself, fresh off promoting his latest memoir, Yo! Life Lessons from the Ring, Grit, Guts, and Going the Distance, which had already topped the New York Times bestseller list with its raw tales of overcoming dyslexia, boxing dreams deferred, and the relentless grind of Hollywood survival, strode onto the set with that signature swagger, a mix of Rocky Balboa's unyielding determination and Rambo's quiet intensity. The audience, a sea of middle-aged women in floral blouses and sensible heels, erupted in applause, their cheers echoing off the brightly lit backdrop adorned with pastel pinks and motivational quotes about empowerment and sisterhood. Whoopi Goldberg, ever the poised moderator, kicked things off with her warm, gravelly laugh, introducing Sly as the man who taught us all how to get back up after a knockout punch, while Sonny Hostin nodded enthusiastically, her legal eagle eyes sparkling with admiration for Stallone's underdog stories. Sarah Haynes, the bubbly blonde with a penchant for heartfelt segments, gushed about how Rocky changed my life, that training montage. Iconic. And Alyssa Farah Griffin, the former White House aide turned conservative firebrand, leaned in with a sly smile, hinting at Stallone's Republican leanings and his past support for figures like Donald Trump, setting the stage for what everyone thought would be a lighthearted chat about resilience, family, and maybe a few anecdotes from the Expendables franchise. But then there was Joy Behar, seated at the far end of the curved host's desk, her signature red hair perfectly coiffed, her eyes narrowed behind those oversized glasses like a hawk spotting prey from 1,000 feet up. At 83, Joy had been the queen of candid commentary for decades, her queen's bread wit as cutting as a switchblade, unafraid to eviscerate politicians, celebrities, or anyone who dared step into her arena with views she deemed outdated or, worse, patriarchal. She'd built her career on calling out hypocrisy, from skewering conservative icons to roasting her own co-hosts when they veered too far from progressive orthodoxy, and on this day, with Stallone's book delving into themes of traditional masculinity, personal responsibility, and the value of hard work over handouts, themes that Joy had publicly lambasted in her own columns as toxic bootstraps nonsense, it was clear from the get-go that sparks were going to fly. As the applause died down, Stallone settled into the guest chair, his broad shoulders filling it out like it was custom-made, a faint scar from an old boxing mishap visible on his cheek under the studio lights, and he flashed that crooked grin, the one that said, "I've taken hits from Apollo Creed, what's a little chit-chat?" Whoopi lobbed the first question, easy as pie. Sly, your book is all about those moments when life knocks you down, dyslexia, rejections from agents, that heartbreaking loss of your son Sage back in 2012. How do you keep getting up? Stallone's voice, that gravelly Brooklyn Italian rumble softened by years of therapy and reflection, filled the room. Whoopi, it's simple. You don't quit, you lace up the gloves, you hit the heavy bag, you surround yourself with people who believe in you, like my wife Jennifer, my daughters, my fans. Life's a fight, but every punch teaches you something. The audience awed in unison, Sonny chiming in with a story about her own battles in the courtroom, and for a glorious 5 minutes, it felt like the perfect View segment, uplifting, real, relatable. Sarah even teared up recounting how Stallone's Creed series gave her hope during her divorce, and Alyssa praised his philanthropy for at-risk youth, drawing parallels to her work with veterans. But Joy, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, sipping her coffee with a smirk playing on her lips, couldn't let it ride. She leaned forward, microphone in hand, her voice slicing through the warm fuzzies like a cold wind off the East River. Sly, honey, that's all very inspirational, but let's get real for a second. Your whole, pull yourself up by your bootstraps shtick, it's cute in a movie, but in the real world, it's code for blaming the poor for being poor, women for not breaking glass ceilings fast enough, and minorities for not just working harder. I've read your book, love the dyslexia part, truly, but when you say success is 99% grit, what about systemic racism? What about the patriarchy that kept people like me fighting for equal pay my whole career? Isn't that just Stallone speak for ignoring the fight that's already rigged? The studio fell silent, the kind of pin-drop hush that only happens when a grenade's been lobbed into a tea party. Stallone's jaw tightened, that famous underbite clenching as he processed the barb, his blue eyes flashing with the fire of a man who'd stared down Carl Weathers on screen and off. The audience shifted uncomfortably, a few gasps rippling through the rows, while Whoopi tried to interject with a nervous chuckle. "Joy, let's keep it light, Sly's here to talk triumph, not trials." But Joy, relentless as ever, waved her off. "No, Whoopi, we need to call it out. This man's a hero to millions, but his worldview, it's from the 80s, and honey, the 80s called, they want their outdated macho myths back." And just like that, the powder keg ignited. Stallone, not one to back down from a verbal spar, remember, this is the guy who ad-libbed half of Rocky's iconic lines in the ring, leaned in, his voice steady but laced with steel. "Joy, with all due respect, and I mean that, because I've got a lot of respect for what you've built here, life's not rigged for everybody. Yeah, there's bad breaks, yeah, there's unfair crap, but you don't win by whining about the refs. You train harder, you dodge better, you come back swinging. I came from nothing, Italian immigrant parents, learning disability that made school hell, but I didn't sue the system, I wrote the damn script myself. And if that's macho myth, then guilty as charged. But tell that to the kids in Philly row houses watching Rocky, believing they can be more. You wanna talk patriarchy? Look at me, I married strong women, raised daughters who run circles around me in smarts. Systemic this, rigged that, sure, it exists, but it's not an excuse to tap out." The words hung in the air, heavy as a title belt, and the audience was split, half cheering wildly for Sly's raw honesty, the other half murmuring in agreement with Joy's pointed critique, a few even shouting, "Preach, Joy." From the back, Sonny tried to mediate, her lawyer's poise kicking in. "Sly, Joy raises valid points about equity, how do we balance personal grit with societal support?" But Stallone, warming to the fray, shot back, "Equity. That's code for equality of outcome, Sonny, and that's a loser's game. I want equality of opportunity, give everyone a fair shot at the bell, then may the best fighter win. I've donated millions to literacy programs because I know the system's broken for some, but pity parties don't fix it, action does." Joy's face flushed, her New York temper flaring like a match to gasoline. "Oh, please, Sylvester, action. Your action was endorsing Trump in 2016, a man who brags about grabbing women, who calls immigrants animals. That's your idea of grit. Hypocrisy much, and don't get me started on your films. How many explosions and scantily clad sidekicks does it take to prop up fragile male egos?" The clash escalated, voices overlapping in a cacophony of passion and principle, Whoopi banging her gavel like water glass for order as the commercial break loomed, but the damage was done. By the time the cameras rolled back from break, the tension was thicker than fog in a noir film, and Stallone, sensing the ambush, rose slowly from his chair, that iconic silhouette casting a long shadow over the desk. "Ladies, it's been real, too real, maybe. But I came here to share hope, not hash out politics. Joy, you fight your fights, I'll fight mine. God bless." And with that, he turned on his heel, the door slamming behind him like the final bell in a brutal bout, leaving the host stunned and the audience buzzing. Backstage whispers flew, producers scrambling, publicists dialing damage control, but the viral clip was already exploding across social media. Hashtags like #SlyVsJoy and #Stallone storms off trending worldwide within minutes. What started as a book promo had devolved into a cultural cage match, pitting old-school individualism against modern social justice, blue-collar ethos against coastal elitism, and one legend's unfiltered truth against another's unyielding sarcasm. As the segment wrapped, Joy quipped to the camera, "Well, folks, that's why we can't have nice things, or nice guests," drawing laughs from her loyalists but eye rolls from the Sly sympathizers. Whoopi, ever the diplomat, segued to weather with a sigh. "Up next, tips for staying cool when things heat up, boy, do we need 'em." But the internet, it was on fire. Twitter, or X, as Elon rebranded it, lit up with memes of Rocky throwing in the towel captioned, "Sly had enough of Joy's jabs," while TikTokers recreated the walkout with dramatic slow-mo and orchestral swells from the Rocky theme. Reddit's R-Television subreddit devolved into a war zone, with threads dissecting every line. "Joy was right, Stallone's worldview is stuck in Reagan era," versus, "Sly dropped truth bombs, the view's just a liberal echo chamber." Even late-night hosts piled on, Jimmy Fallon spoofed it with a puppet Stallone shadowboxing Joy's cardboard cutout, while Colbert roasted Sly for leaving faster than he ran up those museum steps. Meanwhile, Stallone's team was masterful. Within hours, his Instagram post, a black and white photo of him in boxing gloves, captioned, "Sometimes you gotta know when to throw in the towel, or not. Thanks for the love, champs." Book's still #1 fight on, racked up 2 million likes, turning the fiasco into free publicity gold. Sales of Yo! Life Lessons surged 300%, with fans flooding Amazon reviews, bought it after watching Sly school Joy, pure inspiration. Joy, no stranger to backlash, fired back on her personal X account. "Sylvester, come back anytime, I'll have my boxing gloves ready. #The View #no filter." But behind the scenes, whispers of network memos circulated, urging hosts to dial back the edge on conservative guests, fearing advertiser pullouts from the polarized fallout. Alyssa, the lone right-leaning voice, texted Sly privately, "You handled that like a champ, proud of you." Sonny, ever the bridge builder, penned an op-ed for The Root on the grit gap, why black excellence demands both systems. Change and self-reliance, name-dropping Stallone's dyslexia story as a nod to unity. Sarah, the emotional core, shared a vulnerable IG story about her own walkout moments in life, tagging both Sly and Joy with hearts. And Whoopi, she called an emergency host huddle post-show, her wisdom cutting through the steam. "Sisters, we thrive on real talk, but real talk without respect. That's just noise. Next time, we listen first, lash out second." As the sun set over Manhattan that evening, the city that never sleeps was abuzz with aftershocks, barbershops in Little Italy toasting Sly's moxie, coffee clatches in Brooklyn debating Joy's jabs, and everywhere, the undeniable truth that in an age of cancel culture and echo chambers, a good old-fashioned TV tussle could still remind us why we tune in. For the mess, the passion, the human spark that makes stars shine brighter in conflict. Stallone, holed up in his Tribeca penthouse with a steak and a script for Expendables 5, chuckled to his wife, Jen, "They wanted Rocky, they got Rambo." And somewhere across town, Joy Behar poured a glass of red, toasting to the fray, to living unapologetically, even if it clears the room. This was no mere spat, it was a seismic shift, a reminder that under the glamour and the gab, we're all just fighters in our own rings, dodging punches from unexpected corners, hoping to land one that counts. The View would go on, Stallone would keep climbing, Joy would keep quipping, but on that sweltering July day, for one electrifying hour, the American dream duked it out with the American critique, and nobody walked away unscathed. Or unchanged. As clips looped endlessly on YouTube, racking up 50 million views in 24 hours, one thing was crystal clear: in the Coliseum of cable, the crowd always craves the clash. And boy, did they deliver. Now, let's rewind a bit deeper into Stallone's prep for the appearance. He'd been reluctant, you see, his publicist pitching it as perfect for the book demo, broad female audience loves underdogs. Sly, nursing a coffee in his home gym surrounded by posters of First Blood and posters from his painting phase, those moody abstracts that fetch 6 figures at auction, had grumbled, "The View. That's where they eat conservatives for breakfast." Pass. But the numbers won out. 3 million daily viewers, prime promo slot. He arrived early, charming the crew with stories of training with real boxers for Rocky III, signing headshots for interns, even posing for selfies with the makeup artist who confessed to crying at Creed III's funeral scene. Little did he know, Joy had prepped her own dossier, highlights from Sly's 2024 interview with Joe Rogan where he mused on the death of the alpha male in woke Hollywood, clips of his Trump rally cameos, even a deep dive into his foundation's grants, which Joy deemed drop in the bucket for real change. Her co-host sensed the setup. Alyssa whispered warnings during makeup, Joy's on a tear about celebrity enablers this week, but loyalty kept lips sealed. As Sly took his seat, the green light flashed, and the die was cast. The initial banter flowed like fine Chianti, Sly regaling them with tales of botching his first audition for The Godfather, landing the mute enforcer role instead of the romantic lead. "I mumbled 3 words, I'll pay him, and Coppola said, 'You're in, kid.' Sometimes silence speaks loudest." Laughter rippled, Joy even cracking a smile at the irony, given her own loquacious legend. Then came the pivot. Whoopi on fatherhood, Sly's voice cracking as he recalled Sage's sudden heart attack at 36, the void it left. "He was my mirror, my motivator. Gone too soon. That's why the book's for parents, Teach him young to chase dreams, not distractions. Tissues passed, hugs, offered via air, pure view magic. But Joy, spotting her opening, struck, heartbreaking, sly. Truly. But in your book, you rail against entitlement culture, kids expecting trophies for showing up. Isn't that aimed at millennials like your daughter's generation? Blaming them for not being as gritty as boomers. Sly's eyes narrowed. Entitlement. Nah, Joy, I call it realism. Trophies for breathing, that sets you up for the real world slap. My girls earned every win. Sophia's directing now, Sistine's modeling with a business degree, Scarlett's activism. Fierce. But they know. No shortcuts. Joy pressed. Activism, like your foundation's token donations while you jet to Mar-a-Lago. Come on. The gasp was collective. Sly's fist clenched off camera. Token. We've rebuilt schools in 20 countries, Joy. Visited war zones. What's your charity ledger look like? Tit for tat, the barbs flew faster. Joy on Hollywood's hashtag MeToo blind spots, your Stallone Productions, All Boys Club. Sly on media bias, The View skips Biden's gaffes but hounds Trump 24/7. Sunny interceded with stats on wealth gaps, Sarah with empathy for Joy's comedy roots, Alyssa with a Trump defense tangent that Joy shut down. Not today, Alyssa, this is about Sly's selective grit. By minute 15, it was gloves off. Sly, voice rising, you wanna judge my life from a soundstage? Try scraping by on $40 a script in 74 Philly. Joy, unflinching, and I wanna judge because I've hosted this circus 30 years, calling out phonies like you who play hero but vote villain. Whoopi called break, but the heat lingered. Post-ad, they circled back, Sly attempting olive branch. Joy, we're both fighters, respect. But Joy, respect's earned, not assumed. Apologize for the Trump love. Sly, apologize for winning elections. No ma'am. Boom, walkout. The aftermath, epic. Sly's book hit #1 in 12 countries, Joy's ratings spiked 40%, The View's YouTube channel crashed from traffic. Podcasts dissected it for weeks. Joe Rogan had Sly on, roaring with laughter. Bro, you Rambo'd out of there. Joy guested on The Late Show, quipping, he left, I stayed, who's the real stallion? Cultural ripples. Think pieces in Vanity Fair on, The Death of Civil Discourse, TED Talks on, Grit vs. Grace, even a SNL skit with Pete Davidson is a mumbling Sly versus. Kate McKinnon's cackling Joy. Sly donated $1 million to literacy in response, Joy matched with Women's Rights PAC. In the end, the clash wasn't a defeat, it was a draw that drew us all closer to the ring, cheering for authenticity in a scripted world. And as October 2025 rolls around, with holidays looming and elections heating, one lesson sticks: sometimes, the best scripts are the ones we ad-lib in the heat of battle. Fade to credits on this chapter, but the rematch, always just one invite away.